So Dalton Prout is here today. He's our. I was very excited to have you in there today, Dalton. We actually thought it was going to be last week. I think we mentioned it on the podcast that Dalton was supposed to be here, and then you said he was so excited to come home and forgot to tell you it was next week.
Yeah, I called you a week early.
Called me a week early. That's okay. And then Eric is here. He's in the background today because we only have 2 chairs in this building. So, anyways, yeah, we're excited. So you pipe in whenever you need to, right? Yeah. So, anyways, excited to have Dalton here today again, of course, and then we're gonna get our workout in. We thought we'd get it in earlier, but that doesn't work.
No, it's nice.
Got to talk first, yeah. And then Chooch will be in here shortly to see you. Excited to see that. So, you had the bike on the way up.
Yeah.
How long was the ride, by the way?
10 hours.
10
Dad
hours.
came. Dad came and met me halfway. Yeah.
Yeah, on his motorbike.
On the motorbike.
What kind did you get?
Got a Harley. Oh, it's I think I told you, Dad had one.
Yeah.
Had it stolen.
And you
took
bought
the
him
insurance money, built a house, married mom, and yeah. So then once hockey was over, that's kind of a bucket list. Want to ride with my dad.
Well, that was because you were
cool.
here for that, right? So this is
Yeah.
this is the coolest thing, guys. Like, obviously, when we do these podcasts, we try not to make it look like we're doing a planned thing, right? So it's not like we could just talk
Off the
normal.
cuff.
Yeah, we just talk normal. But it was awesome. My family was so happy for you when you were able to do that for your dad. But so last year's it's been about a year now, right? Year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah. So Dalton, was it for his birthday?
Father's Day.
Father's Day. Imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is why you want to play. This is why you want to dial in and be a hockey player, and do it right and pay all the prices, because it's always nice to have a nice life, and it's always nice to play in the NHL and all that stuff. But when it comes time to being able to give back to someone that poured their heart out to you, and that's got to feel pretty good. So I remember about a year and a half ago when you were saying for Father's Day, I'm going to buy my dad a Harley.
Yeah, that was cool.
And Eric and I were like, that's a cool thing to do. And you went out shopping for him, and then you did it. You surprised him, right? You brought him to the shop.
Me and my
and
sister went, and they helped us out. I didn't really know what I was looking for.
Right.
But they did it up nice. They put it where the bikes, like someone buys a bike, they put it like where you pick it up and you get a picture on it. And went in there. His name was Jim.
Yeah.
Jim brought him over and said, "Yeah, I think I have something you'd like." You know, they shot the shit for a little bit and brought him over. And he sat on the bike. Well, what do you think of this one? And then they queued the camera up and came around. And was like, "This one's yours." And he handed him a note.
Yeah.
That we wrote.
Yeah.
And he realized it was his. So
Yeah.
he said, "Thanks for being a good dad. You know, drive me around, all that stuff." And he kind of, it came over him, and it was pretty cool.
That brings a tear to a glass eye.
Oh yeah, that was cool because he didn't know, he had no idea. He was like, "We were just gonna go look."
Yeah.
We were just gonna go look. I got it on video. That was cool.
When you did that, did you melt?
Oh yeah,
you melted it.
Oh yeah.
You did something good for somebody.
Yeah, I had my hands in my pocket. I was just looking at him, and like, my dad, he's pretty stoic in a lot of ways, right? Like your dad's your form of consistency, bring you up, bring it down when it levels you out. But to see my dad get emotional there, that was because I knew how much he liked it. It was like I could imagine being a parent and be like giving your kid the present on Christmas, right? Like Santa showed up.
Yeah,
that was it. It was really cool. I remember when I was in junior. Back to what you said about like playing hockey and living a good life, but it can afford you, to live, very nice. But I remember that being pointed out. Drake Berkowski was my coach, and he was my second year when I got traded there. And he goes,
"He was an assistant coach at the time.
He was an assistant coach with Marty Williamson. Yeah, and I remember being after practice. It was me and Mike Hutchinson. We were one of the last ones to leave, and and he was on the bike. He could always eat. Oh my God, he could eat. But he was always an hour on the bike. But seeing one of those guys still.
Is this Berkowski, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were just talking, and he to us, and we got talking about guys that were signing entry-level deals, and the max, your signing bonus is, let's say it's 92.5 or something. It's spread out over the 3 years, and but he said, just keep that in mind, because that's your beginning. He said, where this can take you, it's not about how much money you can make. And he said, "Do you got family? Like brothers, sisters?" And he goes, "Now imagine what you can do for them." And that was the first time when I was young. I was like, you think about the glory of playing in the NHL. You think about getting there, making it, and it's such a pedestal thing, it's so respected amongst your peers at the time, people that are older than you. It's your goal. But then that was the first time, or even a way out to live the life you want to live. But that was the first time one of my respected coaches, and because he played, he was a 10th overall pick, had an NHL career. As a kid in junior, you really, really look up to him. Like, you're looking for approval, anything he wants to tell you, like, you're hanging on to any tidbit of information. Yeah. But he said, and it was like a bigger picture of life thing. Like, imagine being able to do stuff for your family, buy them the present that they want, take a vacation, whatever it may be. That was cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, you did that for your dad. That was one of the coolest things. Got to see live, more or less, right? Because you were getting excited talking about it and buying it for him and stuff like that. That was awesome. That's sick. We were talking in the car about. I was just giving him a story about. I just recently had a guy here, and I put him in some situations where it was new to him, and we're just talking about being uncomfortable. And I was actually saying that to the kids on the ice the other day. It's like a lot of kids, they don't like to get in that uncomfortable state. And I was explaining to them, like, if you're not maybe on the ice pushing yourself and failing at something, you're probably not growing a whole lot. And we're just talking about that one situation where that one guy was in, and when I put him in that situation, he just didn't want to do it, and it was a huge sign of, like, I don't know how to say it, but it was like it told me a lot about what.
Oh yeah.
What he, how would I say this? Unwilling to try something new, right? And then being in an uncomfortable situation, but like as a player, like, you go, like, take from junior all the way to your scouting now with Florida. Like, even in scouting, there was uncomfortable situations where you had to get in, but you have to face these things once in a while, right? Like, I mean, you were like one of these guys that had to all the time because of your size and the way you played as well.
I'll never forget when I went to my dad signed me up for some power skating stuff in Kingsville. Yeah, I was young. I'm talking. It was right around the time I started playing hockey. Just before, just after. You're talking 6, 7, 8 years old, and I remember crying on the way to the rink, and didn't want to go out there. It was power skating. You just go out just with your skates, and finally it was like, okay, you don't have to. But fast forward a couple of years, and as soon as I had the purpose of wanting to get better at hockey, I was like, then I would go to the rink by myself, put the $2 in the shinny hockey, and I wouldn't leave the ice. As soon as I had a purpose, and I knew that I wanted to get better at it, but just being a kid and it was good for me, but I didn't know yet. And then I was terrified. I didn't want to go out there. But as soon as I wanted to play hockey and get better at hockey, then you can. Yeah, it was like a switch. Just different. But there's a lot of times, I was a beginner this year, right from scratch.
Like from a scouting perspective.
Yeah, and fast forward to now, the playing chapter is done, but then go into scouting. I'd be going into the rink. I'm the new guy. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to fill out the player profiles, what I'm looking for, or where to go. Asking for help every step of the way. Being like, I don't know where to go, where to park, what rental cars do I use? What airlines should I fly in certain cities? Yeah. Am I watching?
Well, you got to be even things like
everything.
Do I share information with a guy from the Nashville Predators?
Yeah, some guys
probably keep things real tight.
Some guys, it's just like anything. People have their niches and how they do it. Some guys pull up a couple computers. They got notebooks. Some guys show up with just the lineup card. Yeah. Some guys don't take notes. They've been doing. They're just there to watch one guy.
Jump out. Oh, okay.
Watch their, or they're on an assignment just to watch one guy from depends on where they're sitting in the organization. Yeah. Maybe it's a second opinion on a guy before a trade, or maybe they're laying the groundwork like I am on every player and on their teams.
So I got a question for you. So we talked about it on the phone like early when you started, but like scouting's an interesting thing to me because I don't know if I'd be a good scout, to be honest with you. So when they're looking at, and we talk about this on a lot of our episodes, like a lot of people will say, well, in the let's say the OHL draft, they go, well, that's a bad pick, or they should, like, that guy doesn't deserve to get picked. Now, keep in mind, people that are saying that have never, they're not coaching, or they're not scouting, or maybe they never even played hockey. They're just using their mom, dad, and they use politics and all that kind of stuff. But like, from your perspective now as a scout, like playing all those years, and now as a NHL scout, there's really no one. If you're good, people are finding you. Number one, and number two, like, what do you actually do? Because if I was looked at scouting, like, now I've talked to guys that are in the running teams and stuff, and I understand the structure of it now, so it makes more sense. Where you have one guy's the head of this, and it's almost like you got five guys working under you, and then they kind of report back. But there's a lot of trust, like for someone to say, okay, tell me what you think, because they can't see everybody. There's a lot of trust. So how about when you first started scouting, how did you go out and watch, like you're watching whatever two teams, like where do you start? Because there's ways to do it, right? Like,
I saw there's so many names that I just didn't recognize going back to the American League, and the NHL guys I knew of, but just trying to get a base knowledge, because then it was more so tracking guys throughout the year. But a good bit of information from the older guys that were on staff and that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, where you have to pick the six guys, because you don't write a report on the whole team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people would think, because I would have thought you go to, when scouts go to a game initially, they're looking at everybody.
Yeah, no, you stand out in a good or bad way.
Okay.
And the sweet spot, what I was directed in was, 6 to 8 guys to write on.
Okay.
And you always try and see the good first, because, like I mentioned,
well, it's easy to say can't skate well, not tall, and,
so always
and just
Rick,
start beating
Rick
them
Dudley told me, he's like, try and find the good in every player. That was because you can dismiss players too easily.
That's cool.
And then basically 6 to 8 guys, because then you can get detailed, or you're not. Yeah, it's manageable. Once it gets pretty thin if you try and stretch it to a full roster.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was a little blurb on the game, so it's situational. So you can look back at having a guy having a good or bad game. Was it a 6-1 blowout? Was he playing up in the lineup, down in the lineup? Was he coming off an injury? It's situational.
Sort of 3 and 3.
Yeah,
games and 3 nights.
There's
fresh on a Friday.
I remember 2 months into it, I had St. Louis was one of my teams I was watching. There was a D-man there that was available, and he had just come off of COVID.
Okay.
And I had a really bad report, and I was on him. But it turned out he really improved over the season, and he's something that we need. But if you took that one game in that situation, I wouldn't go near this guy with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
Or pick him.
And so one game doesn't make a player.
No,
good or bad, for sure.
But starting out, it was 6 to 8 guys on one team, within a little bit of a profile of the game to know what's going on. That's how it started. And then I don't know. Throughout the year, again, it was different for me because I was just beginning. But to the staff, they'd put out like a need, whether it be depth in this position, scoring here, a little bit of grit here. So if anyone's available, maybe they're playing a little bit undervalued in an organization, maybe they're playing really well, like keeping an eye for a certain thing while you're just making notes and collecting information on how guys are doing. It's tough though, because it gets so repetitive. It looks all the same. You're just you're getting something, looking for something to stand out. You're looking for the details of, you got to watch closely. Yeah. It is what you make of it. And then a lot of the times I would learn as much about the players watching as I did talking to the guys that were at the games, because there's the same 8 to 12 guys watching the same area of 20 to 30 pro teams. So I'd go into all these rinks and I'd see all the same faces.
Yeah. And
these are the guys talking to general managers. It's very fluid. It keeps moving. So keeping up to date was, and I noticed that right after COVID, because I was watching some video because we couldn't get in and out of the rinks there. It was probably just after Christmas.
Yeah.
Had some game cancellations. And I realized how important it was just to have a conversation with other guys that have been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
pick up on something that you didn't necessarily look for, or a background on a player, or background on a decision where, this guy's going to be not available next year. He's going to be available because of his contract, and very situational stuff.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
So, okay. So what I wanted to kind of explain to people is, when people, I mentioned this to you earlier, when people think of, most people, even myself, I didn't realize how much the pro scouting, how involved and how much they just scour the earth for another level of player. So
Yeah, scour the earth.
Yeah, scour the earth.
Actually,
Yeah, 100%. So
Yeah.
you've got people are so hung up on, like, basically the side of it is like just how hard it is actually to get there. So you look at, you try to get drafted in the OHL or get a scholarship. That's level 1, right? Level 2 is actually getting drafted. Next is getting drafted or invited or getting some kind of a contract in the National Hockey League somehow, somewhere, however you do it. But then in between those levels, people would think that that's okay. So once you get drafted and you might be a second round pick to Philadelphia Flyers, and you think, okay, you look at the depth chart and, okay, if I maybe I can get in there. Then you go in the dressing room, you realize this guy used to be the captain for Frölunda in Sweden, and this guy was the American League top scorer, and this guy was the captain for Team Canada on
nipping at the heels.
All these things. You realize, okay, now you're a second round pick that you think you have a chance, and now you're 4 deep on the roster in your position, or 3 deep, and you go, this is going to be really hard. And then there's you and your colleagues that go out and scout pro hockey players around the world, because your draft picks and stuff. If you can find a 24-year-old guy or a 26-year-old guy that could fit in for a year or two, that is better than that high draft pick. Maybe it's contracts and stuff,
or they're not ready, or whatever.
Yeah, or you're not ready, or you're looking for other ones. So I think people don't even know what the hell a pro scout does. But can you explain? I don't know if you're allowed to. Are you allowed to explain what your job is as a pro scout, like your level of pro scout?
Basically, you
work
the
for
boots on the ground.
Florida Panthers.
Yeah, you're the boots on the ground. And again, I've done this. It's 1 season. There's guys that it takes a few years.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of trust, and they've been nothing but great to me. Bring me along, and I've had lots of guys to learn from. But when the older guys that have been doing this for a long time, and our general manager looks at them and asks for an opinion, they've traveled, put the miles in and sat there and just diligently watched and reported on these players for 6 to 10 times throughout a season, and monitoring growth, or projecting potential. So when a trade comes up and it's sitting on the table, or is this the right guy for this position? You have to have had to have done your work, and you got to stand by it. And the other thing is, they can joke, or you're not always right. A guy can surprise you, or a guy can overachieve, or a guy can underachieve. There's a human element to this.
Yeah.
But you do the homework as much as possible to stay as consistent as possible. But then there's nothing, you can't replace experience to see how personalities play out, how situations play out. There's common themes, and there's another layer of the whole analytics now.
Yeah.
But so for me, it's just these players knowing your teams. This is the bottom line. So any question
you're going American League?
American League, I have 13 teams.
Okay, that's how it is. So you have 13 teams,
and you always have
13
the parent.
NHL teams?
I have the only team I don't have that's in the American League is St. Louis's American League team, because it's in Springfield. So I do the Central.
Okay, so all Central,
all the
13
Central,
NHL
so 12 teams plus St. Louis.
Plus St. Louis. So you go to NHL games.
I watch their American League team and NHL team, and basically as current as possible. So I'll split up my schedule and try and see them at home. Each team, try and see them on the road, at home, try and catch them on fresh nights against good teams, good competition. And it's scheduling is that's probably the hardest, as hard as just trying to watch the games.
Yeah.
But just being as current as possible, so that any information I can relay to my boss is gone through with a finely toothed comb. How is the guy currently? Where is he in shape? How are his details? Is he He's having a good year, bad year, why? And then asking guys that I used to play with, maybe guys in the room, be like, hey, what's the deal with this guy right now? And it's always in a positive light. You're trying to, when you're younger, even going through it, you understand that you think everyone's out to get you. Like everyone's, because you, at the end of the day, you're in the business of winning hockey games, and you're trying to be replaced every day if it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And even if you've won, it's not good enough because you have to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're always thinking someone's out to get you, but you're always trying to get the best out of a player.
Yeah.
So you put a player in a position to succeed, and everyone wants you to do well, but it's tough to tell a player that when if you don't do well, you will be replaced tomorrow. Contracts can get ripped up. So it's it's a little bit tough for me.
So
judging, you don't want to judge. You just want to relay information and relay the current information and just take emotion out of it. Because I'd like to say, every single guy on the team that I watch in the American League, this guy could play in the NHL, and he's a great guy, and he's a great skater, and he's got a great shot, and he's got, I'd love to say all those things, but it's just not the reality of the situation.
No, for sure. And then so so with the team, you're going and you're looking for, you need to know everybody in those 13 teams, so that if your team needed to make a trade, you have a book on them.
A lot of free agency. The first time I went through it, the free agency was a big one.
Okay. So signing a free agent through...
July 1, because there's a lot of guys that you track over their entry-level contract, 2 or 3 years, whatever it may be, and then they become available after they get qualified for a year. So you get your qualifying offer, which is a 2-way contract of an NHL salary, American League salary, and it's a 10% raise off what you had off your entry level. And, you have your 5 years until they become unrestricted. Your 3 contracts are 25. And then once they're available, and maybe it hasn't worked out in that situation, you've been tracking a guy for 4 or 5 years, he's available, is he worth taking a shot on? Because a lot of times, kid, you don't get your full brain until you're 25. And then your athletic ability matched with some, real life adversity and being a pro, it syncs up sometimes in the late 20s. So sometimes it takes a guy 2 or 3 teams before a guy really hones in on a skill or his preparation, his mental preparation. And, sometimes it comes together all at 21, but that's why you track guys, so that maybe you can get someone that fits in your roster that's a good cap hit, maybe undervalued. Because, the reality of the situation is a lot of times guys you get overpaid. Overpaid by meaning you're not producing at your contract, so you're going to have guys on your contract or on your roster that are doing more than what they're paid for until they earn it.
Yeah.
So it's then the money side. The money side.
Tanner Geno in Nashville.
In Nashville, like making $800,000, and he's probably clipping out a $5 million pace right now.
For sure, doing things
incredible. But the money side. When I remember I sat down and they were forecasting their salary cap, what each position made for 3 years out. And you have to plan for that stuff. And that was like
crazy. Well, now you need to go back to school and
that was
10 math.
That was they had a program that does all the adding all this stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That was intense. That's
Did you walk out of there like going with?
No, I was. It's like no, I'm not a numbers guy.
Not a cap guy.
They have a guy. It's funny. The guy he's awesome. His name's Braden Birch. Awesome guy. Does the analytics, not the analytics, all the salary cap transactions to the league. And he was there's one other guy, but he was a guy who survived cleaning house. The whole, like, top to bottom organization. That's how important those guys are.
Yeah. Well,
he's really
look
good
what
at his
happened to Dadonov, right?
Yeah.
That contract right there, like something slipped somewhere.
Yeah, in the trade. What, in the trade?
In the trade, didn't know, was it a no trade?
Yeah, you got to look
in certain teams, and they traded him to San Jose.
Teams.
Like that stuff is like, that's not a small mistake.
No, you got to go through that contract, and
so that hit their cap, everything. Like it screws up.
It doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good either. It looks like you're not being thorough. You haven't done your homework.
Yeah,
there's definitely a business side to it.
Yeah, that's the other part people don't understand. Yeah. Well, and we were talking about that too. Like, so as people are going through the process of trying to be a hockey player, and I want you to maybe speak of that as a scout. when people look at you look at a roster, and Crosby is making 8.7 million because that's his number. Then you got the 10, 11 guys, Austin Matthews. You got the Connor McDavid that make that kind of money. But people, when they're thinking I'm going to play in the NHL, we always say that people think that that's where they're aiming to be, which is not going to happen.
No.
But there's one or two guys maybe that are going to ever do that, right? So when guys are playing hockey, I think we talked about this before. This is what I see when I watch junior hockey. I'll just say it this way: when I watch junior hockey, I see the same guy on every team in every position. What I mean by that is, like, I don't see very often someone that sticks out because they're standing out for a different reason. Like, you're having an identity that's like, okay, that guy is this. And when you have a guy like that, it's like, oh, okay, there's a different player. So I just find, so in scouting, it must be frustrating as well. Or does it just get to that at some point where the game has the game changed so much that everyone is just really skilled? Or,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like that's why I like Tanner Geno so much, is like, he's a guy that just carved out his own niche.
Does
he's
everything.
Beat you up. He's going to fight. He's going to score. He's going to make plays.
Smart.
And he's big. And he's smart.
He's really smart.
Because you can only be so smart.
Yeah.
As a hockey player, right? You can only be only so fast and only so skilled. Well, not only, but you can only have so many of them, though.
Yeah.
So my point is if you're a kid coming up, and I'm not talking, Charlie has his niche. Jerv I think he has his. He's a really defensive guy. He's really, really defensive and really good at sneaky stealing pucks and making plays.
Yeah.
So there's a niche there. So that was my point. Like, what other niches have you seen? If you have,
there's something. You're always looking for something to stand out. But I try and put myself, because I know what it feels like to be on a 3-3, or you're navigating your first couple of years pro, and you're not the Connor McDavid and the Austin Matthews, or you realize that really quick. And
not obviously.
But it's so hard to say that sometimes the effort doesn't go appreciated, because it's just to keep up, just to keep pace, just to be in that dressing room. It takes a lot. But then you have coaches come in and be like, we're flat, we have nothing tonight. But it's that extra gear to stand out in a game. It takes so much mentally and physically, and a level of commitment, to do it on a consistent basis. That's what scouts are looking for. You want to stand out in some way, shape, or form, because because in real time, it's so hard. Mm-hmm. It's a decision you make before the season starts, to how hard you're going to play, and how that could be. Sometimes it could be hitting and fighting, but how hard it is to stand out as a skill guy, make those plays, and have a jump on a guy.
It's hard.
And a lot of the times, I mean, you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
You really, it's very.
Like, when you say you have it or you don't, you have it for, like, it's you, or you mean the particular night?
No, it's on that particular night, but you see guys that can handle the pro game, or they can't. And it's because it is overwhelming. It's you're not just playing hockey anymore. You're creating a living for yourself. Yeah.
So, like, I always say that with kids in the OHL and stuff, like, people think that, so you take a kid that's out here, let's say when there's no contact, or they're playing minor hockey and they can zip through people, and it looks really good and stuff like that. But that's I always say you have to get to the OHL level, or let's say the OHL level, you have to take the minor hockey out of you, right? You have to learn how to play hockey.
You have to play with a purpose.
And you have a role, or whatever you want to call it. But then at the NHL, you just said something that's a little bit different than taking the minor hockey out of you now. Now you got to play for a living. And that's another.
There's more at
that's
stake.
A whole different. I never even thought about that. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, there's more at stake because it's your livelihood. Yeah. But you see guys take it seriously and they prepare, or they don't. And you're looking for a guy that, for me, I like watching guys that are just, they're having fun in a way that they're embracing their opportunity, having, playing with a little bit of jam. And because I remember when you start thinking, when the game was overwhelming at times, where you're not feeling it, you don't have your swag or your confidence, or and how to get it back, how hard it is. So when guys are in a groove, you can tell, when they're That's what you're looking for, or guys when it's not going their way. What do they do to get things on their side? Can they shrink their playbook and gain their momentum back? It's lots of situations come up, whether it's it's a goal against in the first minute, or a guy games on the line, a guy throws a pizza, or I know he's played. This is their 4th game in 6 nights, or something like that. And how are they going to play? How are they going to come out? Are they going to come out and still try and dictate, or are they just going to absolutely mail it in and cruise through? Because I've been in those in the room when that mood is there.
Yeah.
And with whether no matter what trajectory the team's on, how is this guy approaching this game? Stuff like that. It's fun to watch because there's an element of how well these players, and you travel around the country to watch them, and they have no clue who you are.
Yeah.
It's a really weird. It's a really weird perspective.
And you're actually very important to them if they.
They
don't have
you
no
never
idea.
And I'm asking teammates, I'm asking old coaches, guys that have played with them maybe in junior. Like the hockey world's small, you have, but it's that's an element that I've found really different.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I know what these kids look like, what they look like when they're tired, what their game looks like, a little bit of family background, what their work ethic is like.
Yeah. So basically, the question Eric was asking is, as a scout, do you think because you played the game, are you harder on guys, or you're more empathetic on guys because you played? Does it help you or hurt you at times? And I would say most guys have played, like a lot of the scouts have played anyways.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the question: would you be more empathetic or whatever? And then I'm going to add in: are you more empathetic to a guy that's a 4, 5, 6D that is similar to you? Do you feel for that guy? You want to push for him?
I think
it's hard.
I do when I'm on a personal level. I'm more empathetic because I know exactly what they're going through. But at the same time, I'm pulling for them. But it's not like I have any. I'm not going to sacrifice the team's opportunity to pick up a quality player that's maybe a little bit farther behind because I have a soft spot for him. That's where the game is a business. The best play, bottom line.
So what I was going to ask is, we talk about room guys. So I think that hockey teams are, how everyone talks about, when they scout, they're looking for quality people and character and stuff. And I call bullshit on it a lot of the times, because I think at the end of the day, they're looking for the best hockey player. And a really good hockey player trumps character sometimes, I think. But I also know how important character can help you. So when in the room, this is maybe not even from a scouting perspective, but in the room, at what point does character take over, or the type of person he is?
There's everyone has their guy, almost like a coach or a GM that they trust that is a good character guy, and there's always a little bit of it. Torch said it in a good way. He said the room needs personality. I know that kind of sunk in with me, because you do need a guy that you don't need, altar boys.
Hey, you don't need someone that you don't need guys that are gonna go drink milk after a game.
Yeah, you need personality, and it comes down to you need a couple of guys that just kind of bring everyone together. Everyone's getting a text, where are we going for dinner, or guys that like putting group stuff together, guys that make it an enjoyable life. You can't be miserable at the rink. A guy that you're excited to see at the rink, grab a coffee and say here, or because we've all been there. You're at work and you look, oh God, I got to say hi to this guy again. I got to deal with this guy. Someone who just has their shit together, and they have, you want a collective group that puts themselves together for we're here to do something. We're going to make it best as possible. And no matter how bad it gets or good it gets, we're going to enjoy this. There has to be, as long as you have a few personalities that kind of readjust your sights towards making it as enjoyable as possible, good or bad. But there was a couple guys that came up in conversation that were room guys.
And so good room guys.
Good room guys.
What about the opposite? Like what line is it that guys like I'll talk body language. See a guy on the ice, like you say from scouting, you see a guy when they buckle or something doesn't go their way, you can see, okay, that guy gets frustrated quick.
Yeah, there's still...
and then also, when is it the character, meaning off the ice they're just goofs, where they just they're where I don't want to deal with it? Like, is there a line, or is it just
There's a line.
hockey trumps it?
There's a line. And the line is, can your room handle it? And by that I mean, do they have the leadership and a strong enough core to those actions will alienate themselves.
So the core, because you played with Evander Kane, I'm not asking you to say anything about it, but
Yeah,
that
a type of
one
player
one
that has
room
that,
can handle them,
yeah.
but maybe Edmonton can. They feel.
Yeah, if you and you know you have to have a strong enough need for what they bring. So I think a mix of those, a mix of the two, is probably what goes into that decision. But you know, it's very situational. It's very touchy. But the skill and the ability is always
Number one.
It's always number one.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Yeah.
But when it's you go with a guy that maybe has a suspect character, like I said, if you have a strong enough room to absorb it, because then it won't really shake the foundation of the personality of your group.
Yeah.
But ability is ability in
Yeah.
real time.
Yeah.
You need guys that can put the puck in the net or make a play or stop a play.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day.
That's the business of winning.
So
this
is the hard part. This is that's reality though.
Yeah, yeah.
So the hard part, from my perspective, when I talk to players, a lot of the times is, you want them to be good people. But and I've said this to someone before, several times before. I said, but at the end of the day, being a hockey player you don't have to be a good person. You have to be a good hockey player. But you want to, as I'm teaching kids or dealing with people like on the podcast and stuff, we always want to get them to be good people. So it's almost like a mixed message, right? No, it's not a mixed message. It's just.
You don't have. I think it's part of like life, though.
Yeah, it's just part.
You don't have. You don't have to be a good person. You don't have to be. You don't have to be responsible. You don't have to work out. You don't have to be responsible. You don't have to treat people right. You don't have to. Try it. See how it works out for you.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, so we had someone on here respond one day because we were talking. They forget. I think sometimes it's easy to go on there and just make stupid comments, right?
Oh,
so we were talking about. We were just talking about. I think people forget sometimes that. Guys like you are here all the time, and we know you at a deeper level than just hey. So, someone said, I know all junior and NHL players, all they do is party in the summer and they're milk bags and stuff like that. So we were laughing.
Very
it's
vague.
Huh?
It's very vague.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, who are these people? But having said all that kind of stuff, I maybe I'm going to just kind of wrap it off on this, because I was hoping actually Charlie would be here before the podcast today. So what I wanted to do is for you and talk to him and Seabass a little bit about where they are right now in their hockey process after year one is 16. Well, Seabass is 17 now after year one, and moving forward as a player, a mentor, because you're a mentor to them too, a player, a mentor, and a scout. This is loaded, dude. If they were sitting here right now, what would you say to them for the next 5 years, or how to get on the horse? And this is what I would tell you to do. Is that loaded too much?
No, I think because when I was that age, it just has to be just hit home that this doesn't last forever. Your window in this career is not like, they're going to get older. You're going to see guys, just like you said, from their team that aren't still playing. You're going to see guys not go to college, get real jobs, or they come home, they're studying for. You're going to have to make different decisions, and this is a career that, if you're lucky, you get to do it till you're 30, 35. You're on a different path than a lot of people, and you're going to have choices to make and sacrifices that is worth it if you want to do it in this. But your time is now. Whereas a lot of people have more lax until they're 25 to figure it out.
Yeah.
Your time is now with your choosing. If you choose, this is your choice. If you choose this profession, it's now. And a lot of people, you want to be a gamer. You want to be someone that, stands out when, you go watch a game as a scout. You want to be that person that people talk about after a game. You want to have an impact on the game. But you don't rise to the occasion when that when the puck drops. You rise to the occasion making that choice like on a Monday now.
Yeah.
Like this right now is as important as game 1 next season.
Yeah, or Friday night.
Yeah, and it's in real time, and that's I mean, I guess I made those decisions just because hockey was what I wanted to do, and just like these guys are doing, but just a little bit of emphasis on how important right now is for them. It's your choice, and like I said, they're going to see their peers make different decisions, and because they're just not everyone's on the same path.
Well, that's what.
But it becomes real right about their age.
Yeah,
well, and a lot of people that they're close with.
Yeah,
they're buddies, and to realize that they're on just different paths.
Yeah, that's something that he realized real quick, and it's not a negative thing.
No, not at all.
To his buddies, but that's what he realized. He comes home, and it's the first night he had a couple beautiful kids, great kids, but they're in grade 11 going into grade 12. They have like work, like they go school, work, play a little bit of sports here and there.
Yeah.
But the sports commitment's not. It's just
for
fun. So it was like the first week he was back or so, they were like, hey, come on out to. I'm not going to say his name. Come over to the house. We'll be in the backyard. Mom lets us get hammered, stuff like that. But that's what Friday and Saturday night is.
Yeah.
And he and of course in front of my face he's going to be more like I got to make. No, I got to make good decisions. Hey, Dad. I'm like, yeah, you do. But he actually did. And then so the one night he said he's going to go out there, and we were saying, listen, you got decisions to make. And it seemed like he made good ones, I think, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is that he came back and he says, Dad, I just and this is the best part. He said, Dad, these are my buddies, but I can't do it. He said it to me. I didn't say it to him. He goes, I can't do it. I got he goes, I realize now that it's just so different. Like I have to make sure that Saturday morning, even though my workouts are done and it's only June or July, I got to do my sprints, and I have to perform well at it, and I have to eat right, and I have to get to boxing, and I got to perform, and then I got something on Sunday. So it's like a whole different world, right? But they
you gotta have fun. You gotta have fun with that.
Yeah,
just like he laid out his schedule. Yeah. You can't. It's fun to look forward and have fun at the next party, and that be the outlet. But you have to enjoy what you're doing, and you have to get a positive feedback from the stuff that's hard, not just get through the hard stuff so you can do the stuff you want.
Yeah.
That doesn't last long.
Yeah.
I want to say enjoy the hard stuff. Because that's what's going to separate you. But enjoy it, have fun.
Had 4 years to establish.
Bring as many people with you as possible.
Yeah.
You want to do it together. So
yeah. What about last thing? What about I wanted to ask for a couple of his buddies, and I would say even for Charlie for this matter, because your first year in the OHL wasn't a picnic.
Oh no, not at all. I had a ton of fun. Like I had, all you guys, Danny lived with him. He was riding around, going to practices. Yeah. But the games were a nightmare. I remember, Andy. So
games. Okay. Let me just back it up. So you got games and nightmare. Nightmare being your practices were hard. Your coach was like, does this guy even know does this guy have a compassionate bone in his body? Is he a human? Mm-hmm. Is he nice to anybody? Does he have any feelings for me, empathy for me whatsoever? Right? Does he get off on just bagging the shit out of me and treating me like shit? And then your mindset going through that, because I know a couple of the kids on Charlie's team, I know for a fact they felt like that. And how did they get through that? Because it's what I told Charlie, like when he was having his just establishing himself and almost going, I don't know if I can actually win a job no matter what I do. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could take a spot no matter what I do, because maybe is it age? Is it for whatever reason? So it's like deflating a bit because I actually performed, but I didn't get what I thought I could get out of it, because I think right now I'm better than this guy. So he thinks. But getting through that and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, because it does get better. So the kid that maybe was scratched for 30 games, and the coach at the end of the year goes like, okay, you're going to have a big year next year. Like, how does he even believe that? Like, so how do you navigate through that shit? Like, if you can remember it, because at the end of the day, you became a pro and you have a beautiful life now.
Yeah. It's crazy because I remember my first year, and drafted in the second round, and then I get there and
Yeah,
I
second,
go,
not 12th.
yeah,
Yeah, you're a high pick.
yeah, it was a high pick. But I remember going to training camp and feeling so overwhelmed. These guys are so much bigger. They're so much stronger. They're so much faster. I couldn't take a stride with the puck. I didn't make a pass. I was just like icing the puck, let alone like try and hit, be physical. Or like I was such a fish out of water. And then come game one, I didn't even know what a healthy scratch was. When the coach said you're not going to play,
So
I was like, wait, I'm on the team, but I have a jersey and I'm practicing with you, but I'm not going to play.
Yeah.
Okay. And then real quick, I realized, wait, all these guys played. I played one game this weekend and 3 shifts, and then the whole team played. And then I have the day off, which I probably should have worked out, but I didn't know.
No, you don't know.
And then
You're
I go
a
to
dumb
practice
kid.
the next day after eating my billets food all day, coming in, not playing on the weekend, and then all of a sudden the pace picked up in practice as the season was going on. I was like, whoa, these practices are, how am I, this is so hard. How am I even going to play in a game? And I would get in a game and I would just feel so overwhelmed. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like it was a hill I couldn't climb. And I remember my parents, and I'm still, this is when there was no freebies in school. I'm at school at 8 a.m. I get a 30-minute, 40-minute lunch. We're done at 2:30. Practice. I'm on the ice at 3:15. I'm buying a $3 slice of pizza, running out, getting in a car, and getting dressed as fast as possible to get. And then I go home. I do my homework or study. I'm going to bed at 10, 11, trying to get everything done, and do it again. Let alone where my focus should have been.
Yeah.
And just trying to navigate all that. I'll never forget my mom coming up on a game. My dad stayed behind, and after the game, I was scratched. And I remember I had to go grab something from her car to bring to my billets. And I got to the van and I just cried. I just started crying.
So everyone does it.
Just started crying. I was broken. I felt about 1 foot tall, and I had.
And the veterans are always so good to you, right?
Oh no, yeah. Then
making sure you're feeling good.
Yeah, you're sitting at the front of the bus. This is when you don't play, and then I got to pack the bus, and then I got to hand out all the Gatorades and the meals, like I'm working for the team.
Yeah.
And then sit at the front of the bus and take a sucker punch by half the guys that walk by. Just
doubled up with someone.
Yeah, doubled up with someone on a 7-hour trip to the Sioux that I didn't play, and I missed. Try and do homework or study for your test the next day. I'm like, wow. It was, and to think back now, but what I did have was I knew I was going to play hockey. In my mind, it was made up that I had no decision. So my peace of mind was, it's cliche, but on a process. Like, it was great. I had my roommate, Danny, we'd go to the gym. Yeah. So we'd start after practice, and we'd go to the gym. Like, okay, then I feel a little bit better on the ice. It wasn't even close to keeping up, but I was like, I had a taste of, okay, if I ride the bike, or if I do get a warm up in, or if I do some, work on my shot here and there. And this was all, just getting skated, mindlessly skated.
Yep.
And still, but I had
it's like you're the lowest form of a human being at that point.
Yeah, because at that time, you're trying to fit in with your peers, and all that matters to you and how you're navigating your life at that point is your hierarchy of your hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
That is your social, that is your structure of your life.
Yep.
That's your routine. So every time you show up there, I know I'm at the bottom of the totem pole in the reality of what is my life at that time.
Yeah.
So your saving grace was, I was lucky. I had a good billet. I had parents that were, an hour and a half away that would come to games. They'd come to games when I wasn't playing. They would still support me, but in my mind, I had it made up. I was going to play hockey, which was, looking back at it now, was completely delusional. And I looking at this kid that couldn't even come close to keeping up in his first year. And to say that to tell that kid that but I also sacrificed and put in an ungodly amount of hours of work that just made so much sense to me at that time. Because that was the only thing that I could sleep easy at night was that I got better and that day, and I had some work invested in a process of like, and I had no workout plan. I didn't know what I was eating, but I knew that if certain things would make me feel better on the ice. And I just didn't want to stop. And I told you before, when I was done high school and then I could just focus on it, I sit down and write out my week, exactly what I was going to do. And that was that
was putting a log on the fire.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of, and then I realized I wanted it more than other guys that I was around in the dress, because they didn't like to do that stuff. And I love to do that stuff. Like, I really liked going to run the hill by myself.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I knew I got better, but guys didn't like it. And where I enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, okay. Then I started and got traded, and the coach actually said to me, don't let the door handle hit you on the way out.
So imagine that.
That is real.
Imagine that. That's
16.
What he's saying. Coach with zero empathy, or saying, hey, listen, we traded you here. Good luck. All that. He said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah.
Never forget it. But I remember after I just broke down, and my agent at the time, you don't need an agent. You just need to play.
Yeah.
But he called and said, "Hi, just checking, how you doing?" It's like, well, it's not good. He said, well, have you talked to the coaches? I'm like, 16, talk to the coaches. I don't think they know my last name. Okay. 16, like so nervous, so scared all day at school. I'm like, how am I going to talk to my coach? What do I need to say to him? Wait, what do I want him to tell me? What am I supposed to ask him a question? So I remember saying, I'll never forget it. Do you have confidence in me to help this team in any way? It's a cigar voice. Brother, seen a lot of guys in your situation. I think confidence is an excuse. And looking back now, God, what a turd that guy was.
Well, yeah.
Trying to, if I had a 16-year-old that's putting an arm out in any way, he didn't care. It's crazy to think.
Yeah.
But then I left that, and then finished the year, didn't really play the next year. I came back. I remember just walking to the rink and my bag was packed for me. And I was like, okay, where am I going?
Unbelievable.
Got traded, and but an underlying belief that I was going to play, I had it. And that's what got me through. But yeah, like I said, it's almost, looking back at it, it's full on delusional.
Yeah. Well, because the reason I say that, because obviously I was watching my 16-year-old son. And there's a whole bunch of things there. Like, number one, kids want to go. Like, I got drafted to the OHL, and they actually really believe that they're ready for the OHL. And there's very few that are actually ready to play in the OHL.
Very few.
Very few.
What would you say to have an impact on the team? So is there 21 teams now in the OHL?
There's 20 teams in the OHL.
20?
So I would say
there might be 10.
Some first rounders.
Yeah, 10 guys maybe.
Yeah, and then you get the odd one later. So
I'm saying to fit in that first year.
Yeah.
You have to be exceptional. You have to be skill, physically.
So they underestimate, when we talk about this all the time, they underestimate how hard this actually is going to be.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when they get there, because like sometimes you sign and you're there, and so if you start going like your first round, second round, and then you start getting 3, 4, 5, you're signing and you're there, you're not playing unless you're on a team that they lost 20 guys because they won the Memorial Cup last year.
Yeah, and that whole signing thing, people sign, that is what happens day one. Every coach does the same thing. Yeah. It's the oldest psychology trick in the book. Yeah. You come in and say, I don't care how much money you make. I don't care who signed, who has contracts. You say, that means nothing to me. And then everyone's sitting in their stall being like, oh, wow. Our whole hierarchy just got questioned. I need to go establish myself.
Yeah.
Because the reality is it doesn't. Sorry.
Right. Exactly. So people underestimate how good that league is. So you're going in there like I know you minimize it sometimes, but you say like I walked into that league because I did the same thing at 16. I thought I was a goal scorer, man. Goals, like it was easy for me to put points up. But people don't understand. You're playing against guys 5 years older at a time where those 5 years are not man years. Some are men and some are boys still. So those are huge, huge years. And then you're going into a league that's one of the best leagues in the whole world, playing against NHL signed guys and stuff. So they underestimate how good that league is. And then they go in there thinking that they should play, but you're not good. You can't. Like most kids can't play. So it's just watching the process of these young guys, because I spoke to quite a few kids on the team this year. They just talk to me and they listen to the podcast and they know what I do for a living. And they'd be like, you could just see them going, what is going on? Like I thought it was a good hockey player. And they're like, you could call it confidence, but they're just so, I suck now. Like you did. So you were a 21st overall pick, right?
Yep.
So that's first pick in the second round. You're not a bad hockey player.
Yeah.
So you went in there going from thinking that I'm on my way to the NHL to not believing one thing about yourself except you knew you're going to be a hockey player. But you're sitting there going, how can I play in this league? So you're at 16. You can't even see 20. You just want to get 16 done. You want us to play now. And then is next year going to be any better? Because I'm looking at some of the kids. And I told this to Charlie. I said, you've established yourself pretty good. But that doesn't mean you're going to move up to the second line next year or the third, or you still got to fight for your spots. So these kids have to go through it, and I'm looking at them and I go, some of them I don't know if they can. Like they're so in their head.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's so hard. Mentally, it's you have to be willing to endure a lot, because you're going to be questioned every step of the way. Like the best of the best players they not hide it, but take it very well. It's just not where their focus is. The focus is on putting in the work.
Yeah, it's the process. Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. And the beauty of the game is there's such an abundance of games that you're going to have another chance.
Yeah.
You're going to get another chance. But gosh, put in the work.
Yeah. Because at one time you're going to be 18.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be 18 at some point, or you'll be 19, and that's what the league's all about. And then the NHL is the same thing, right?
Yeah. And I wish I had, you got to learn it, but I wish I had a little bit more of the perspective when I was that age. But it's tough you have to go through it. It's sink or swim. And a lot more, I mean, it's completely different now. It was truly sink or swim when in junior. Now they have skill coaches, they have psychologists, they have practice plans that are a little bit more for development. They have, you're going to school half a day. You're there with a lot more structure around you.
The league is like since 1985 was when I played.
Sink or swim.
My first year to now, which obviously there's got to be progress, but like it makes me very happy. Like when I played, we didn't have it. We had one coach. He was a GM too. No assistant coaches. It was like you had nowhere to go to help. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Veterans weren't doing it.
Because when you're that young, you just bury so much, you don't understand that you're doing it.
But anyways, the thing is now they do have outlets, but it's seeing past today.
Yeah, you got to see a bigger picture. That's But in a lot of the ways that I got through that wasn't good. It just basically said I went home, I beat myself up until I felt like I was worthless. Like I said, broke down, and then you basically bullied myself to be like, no, hockey is what you do.
Yeah.
You're going to do this. And be like, tell yourself you suck every day until you work so hard that all of a sudden you're somewhere. You get some traction. Not the healthiest way, but
so it's a way though.
It's a way.
Yeah.